Oh, now we are.
We are live right here.
Good morning.
In New Hampshire.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us again. If you're joining us live or tuning in later, we are the Proactive Health Collective of Keene. Missing a couple members today.
Yes.
But if you haven't tuned in before, I'm Allison Millar. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. And we have Rebecca Montrone of Wondrous Roots and Dr. Jean Clerkin of Monadnock Natural Health. We are all holistic healthcare practitioners in Keene, New Hampshire. And we usually have Doctors Matt and Tisa Abatelli join us from Cheshire Wellness. They practice network spinal analysis type of chiropractic work. So we'll miss them today. Anyway, we thought we'd have a fun dialogue today, just kind of behind the scenes of what it's like to run our own businesses and some of the conditions that we treat, how we diagnose what's going on, and our favorite parts of what we do. So
Awesome. It's going to be a fun topic today.
yeah.
They're all fun, but
They are all fun. Oh, Becky, I think you're muted.
Okay. I also want to say that I'm able today to also monitor any comments on our Facebook feed. So if you go to Proactive Health Collective of Keene Facebook page, a lot of you watch it that way, but usually I can't see that. And when people want to comment, they have to use the actual Zoom webinar. So I will be watching those today. So if you want to contact us, go ahead. And also if you're watching on the regular Zoom webinar, down in the, we have chat down there. We also have Q&A. So please feel free to let us know any questions you might have or comments or whatever.
And we love that. We really love having it being more interactive. So if you have anything that pops into your mind, a comment you want to add, throw it in there, or a question, or an idea for a topic that we can do in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you guys don't have anything else to add in, let's just kind of jump right into it.
Well, should we introduce ourselves? Because sometimes we probably get people who haven't seen us before. So I'm Rebecca Montrone. I'm a holistic health practitioner and nutritionist and herbalist, and I have a business here in Keene, New Hampshire called Wondrous Roots. And we are located in the Miller Forge building on Roxbury Street up on the 3rd floor.
awesome. I am Dr. Jean Clerkin. I'm the clinic director at Monadnock Natural Health, and we do really like a functional medicine practice, and we are in Keene as well, but we do work virtually with people all over the country, and work with detoxification and a lot of glandular issues and autoimmune type stuff.
And I think I've mentioned before, I'm a licensed acupuncturist and practitioner of Chinese medicine. My business is called Basic Balance. It's right across the street from the library in downtown Keene.
Good.
Yeah. So what is the most common health problem that you guys address at your clinics?
Dr. Jean?
Well, I'd have to say across the board is thyroid issues. And, in my 26 years of practice, when I look back at all the history forms I've looked at, no matter what else people have going on, whether they have autoimmune disease or diabetes or this or that or whatever, weight and energy seem to find their way to the top of the list every time. And, part of that is because, certainly weight is something that a lot of people struggle with, a lot of men and women. And it affects us. I've had in my lifetimes where I've not been happy with how my body looks and feels. And, let's just be realistic. That's something that a lot of people, are concerned with. And especially after they've done everything right, they've tried to eat right, they've exercised right. And it's like, why am I, when I look at a piece of cake, do I still gain weight? And then the other thing with energy is that no matter what condition anybody has, it seems to trickle down to, at the end of the day, a loss of energy. If you're in pain all day, it's going to sap your energy. If your thyroid's underperforming, it's going to sap your energy. If you're not sleeping well, you're not going to have energy. If your blood sugar's off, it's going to affect your energy. And I think that's important because energy is what translates into how we live our life, into how we participate, to the level of which we participate, and to the level of enjoyment in which we participate as well. So, it just so happens when we do our analysis, I don't know what it is. The thyroid is a sensitive gland. It takes a lot of beating, I think, and again, especially with women, because in our culture, over the last, say, 20, 30 years, where women tend to have to do more than most. I mean, the truth is, like, you have your working moms, they're being mom, they're running the house essentially, and they're working. And there's no time to like rest and get the me time. And so they just keep, pushing through. And I think that's part of why that gland takes such a beating. Adrenal glands too, but we find thyroid is primary. And a lot of us, like, again, in the last couple of generations, you've had silver amalgam fillings. They tend to leach as we drink hot liquids and chew food. They leach their gases and they get in and start to get into other tissues. And the thyroid is certainly one that's comes up a lot. So that's probably the most common, I think, and I guess I'd follow that up with autoimmune conditions, which the reason being, and truth is that 90% of the thyroid issues are actually autoimmune in nature, Hashimoto's. Mm-hmm. But anything that goes on as we chronically lose our health tends to become autoimmune in nature in one way or the other. And it just depends on which area it affects as to what name we give it. So, yeah.
A lot of environmental toxins too that are affecting the thyroid as well, right?
What's that, Allison?
It's a lot of environmental toxins that will affect the thyroid.
Sure, and I just mentioned one of them being mercury, but it's the personal care products, cosmetics, things of that nature. The petroleum solvents, which are in, most of your soaps and shampoos and hand creams. We get an uptick in that in the winter when people start lathering on the Jergens, it starts showing up more in testing, like, petroleum solvents. So yeah, those things, and they, they can, there's two ways in toxins can affect really any organ, but one is to get in and clog up receptor sites, and then you get inflammation when the body's trying to deal with it, trying to get it out, and also to disrupt communication, with like what you would call your xenohormones, which is like your BPAs and things like that, which are sort of interrupting and mimicking hormones. So they interrupt the communication. Yeah, they interrupt the communication. So yeah, absolutely, toxins. It's really like I've always said this, when I was, really in the dumps and sick for a long time, I spent many years looking for the cause. I was trying to find the cause. What was the cause of this? And I think in the end, I came to the conclusion that it's not just one cause, but it's the cumulative effect of all these causes together, that break the camel's back, so to speak. And it's the toxins, it's the malnutrition, not only by the choices we make culturally speaking, eating, but the fact that our digestive systems are so screwed up that we can only even absorb the nutrients that we have. And then, you compound that with just the stress, the ongoing stress that people have that sort of pulls resources away from everything else. And it's just a recipe for the body breaking down. I mean, it's really not rocket science. And in my opinion, and what I've seen is it's really the cause to really all disease. So it just manifests differently in different people.
It's like if there's one organ system that's effective, the rest of the body can kind of step in and take care of it. But as you start getting them in all the different areas, and then, like you said, it just breaks the camel's back, and you just see it in all the different areas.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with Dr. Jean. Thyroid, I would say, I've said that many times, of all the people who come to see me for anything, any other reason, levothyroxine is so often on that medication list. But again, talking about problems, the thyroid gland is like supposed to be over 90% iodine. And we have great iodine deficiency today. So people don't get iodine and talk about toxins. We have these toxins that are known as halides. So we're talking fluoride, chlorine, bromine. And these toxins take up residence in the area of the body, excuse me, where iodine should be. And so not only do we not have the iodine we need for our thyroid glands to be functioning properly, but we have these poisons now that are squatters. And so that's why a lot of times when I get people started on iodine therapy, they don't feel well initially because these things have to be, you know, excreted from the tissues of the body, and they go into the bloodstream before they can, you know, be excreted through the elimination pathways in the body. So it's a big, big problem. Yes, more toxins. Iodine used to be a dough conditioner in commercially baked breads. And in the early 1980s, the industry changed to bromine. So now people were not getting iodine in their bread, which was actually a pretty good absorption way to get it in food, much better than salt. But now they were getting bromine, which is like chlorine. I mean, people clean their pools with bromine. So we have really, you know, in our modern day, a huge disservice to people's health, with convenience and, you know, modern methods of agriculture.
And just to go back, Becky, on a point you made, I want you to maybe restate this, or that because you introduce something like iodine, it actually triggers a detox response. And that's important, I think, people to understand, because a lot of times they do something in a positive way, but the immediate feeling or experience is not that great. And then they will say, oh, well, that didn't work for me. That made me feel worse. So that couldn't have been it. Yeah.
I'll give a huge example, and that was just this week. And this woman is going to be coming in. I started her on a program a few months ago, and she's been getting acne. Her skin's really been breaking out. So she goes, it happened after I started the supplements. And so I looked at her list, and iodine's on there. Acne, people will say iodine makes me have acne. Acne, when you start iodine, is fluoride coming out of your body. And you need to go through the process. And if you go through the process, your skin will clear, and it will be for the rest of your life like you've never had clear skin in your life. It will be wonderful. But most people don't have the patience. You know, she was great when I explained it. She's like, oh, fine. You know, I can put up with this. I can manage this because I understand there's a reason for it. But you have to, you know, have that explanation for people. And super important that you go through that and let your body do it. It's screaming. It's telling you, guess what? All this crap is in your body and it needs to come out. So skin is like one of the biggest elimination organs of the body. Is it the biggest one, or is it
the biggest organ in the body? And it's, you know,
yeah, it's huge for elimination. Yeah.
Just a real quick note on that. Would you want to mention like the pineal gland in that? And
yeah, you mean the pituitary? Oh, wait a minute, the pituitary.
well, it's going to be all parts of the body, right?
Yeah, but I'm thinking about the thyroid. I'm thinking about the pituitary, but you know, yeah. But where are you going? What are you thinking?
You know, and its effect on the pineal gland, and you know, I know you've talked a lot about this in the past and how that has a huge effect.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
the melatonin and
sure.
all that
Pineal,
stuff.
yeah, pineal gland becomes calcified. We make melatonin from that, which is a huge, think of it, people think of melatonin, they think of sleep, okay? That's one function of melatonin. Melatonin is a super antioxidant like glutathione. And so it has so many other roles in the body. And people start making less glutathione as they get older, they start making less melatonin. And then we see all of these degenerative disease ensue. And why is this accelerated? Yes, because we're on a toxic planet. We have a toxic food supply. Use things like Dr. Jean was saying, use things on your skin that don't have chemicals in them, don't have petroleum products, don't have the junk. There's actually a really good website called Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. They're a great source for looking at what you're using for skin products, and they have like virtually every product known to man in there for whatever it is, like household cleaners, you name it, whether it be dish soap, you know, and you can evaluate what you're using against different things on different levels, like how is it for the environment, how is it for your, you know, your health in different ways. But it's important to know what you're doing. Again, the skin is a big elimination organ, but it's also a huge take-in organ. That's why we can make transdermal medicines, right? They go straight through the skin.
Like patches and things of that nature.
What does that do when you calcify the pineal gland? Because I've heard like hallucinogenics, like, you know, magic mushrooms and things like that, that really expand your consciousness. They do work on the pineal gland. So calcifying it, does that have, what type of implications do you see in your medicine that carrying out?
When I say calcification, what I mean is a lot of people get too much calcium, believe it or not. We're in a, if there's one supplement, you know, big pharma pushes because they make it, it's calcium, you know, calcium supplements. And calcium, most people get enough. My dad, who was compound pharmacist at the Apothecary in Keene, he used to have like a program on a computer. And if people came in to pick up a bottle of calcium, he would say, you know, before you buy that, would you please answer this questionnaire, because it would show how much calcium they were really getting in their diet. And he would say, you know, I really wouldn't advise you take this calcium supplement, because what's the problem with calcium? Especially as we get older, we're not moving calcium into our bones. Where is it going? It's going into the soft tissues. Most arterial plaque, the highest percentage of anything in arterial plaque is calcium. And so calcium has to go somewhere. See, right, the parathyroid glands, they have nothing to do with the thyroid, but the parathyroid glands, they're called para because they're sitting right next to the thyroid, little tiny glands. They have to keep your blood calcium absolutely perfect, or you're going to die. It's super important. So it's going to move your excess calcium somewhere. And if your bones, because you don't have vitamin D3 or K2 adequately in your diet, cannot move that into bones, or your hormones are failing, your hormone levels, where's that calcium going to go? It goes into soft tissue, arteries, it goes into the brain. So that's what we're talking, calcification of the pineal gland. It goes into the bladder tissues and causes urgency of urination. There are other causes for that, but it can cause intestinal and gastrointestinal problems because this calcium has to go somewhere, and it's not supposed to be in those soft tissues.
Yeah. And a lot of the supplements that you see over the counter are just ground up limestone rock, right? So I mean, how absorbable is that?
Yeah.
Rock.
Right.
Yeah.
But that the pineal, you know, like there's a whole spiritual side to the pineal gland, and that I think you were referring to.
Oh yeah, you were alluding to that, Allison. Yeah.
That could be a whole topic in of itself, I think.
That would be a fun topic.
Yeah. I was trying to find somebody a mushroom center. They have these, oh gosh, it's PSTO, you know, stabiline. It's the part of the mushroom that is hallucinogenic. And I wish they would do more with that in this country. There's a few clinics, but there's none around here that I can find where you can get treatment with that, because when it comes to, oh, I was going to talk about that too, like a big thing that I'm seeing today, or one of my really common things that laps over with a lot of other things is anxiety and depression, right? Are you seeing that too?
Yeah. It seems to be heightened in everybody, like this year too.
Yeah.
But the hallucinogenic mushrooms are, they can be like a one-time fix. It's quite remarkable. So I would love to see more research, and having that coming out as a therapeutic for people, I think would be wonderful.
We should find a guest speaker to do that with. That would be fun.
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
After experimenting with your shrooms.
That's right.
There was that movie that came to the Colonial, maybe, I don't know, 10 months ago, when people were still going to the movies. So we can pretty predate anything that anybody went to the movies, was at least, 9 months ago or 10. But it was that mushroom thing. And I eventually, did you see it?
I didn't see it.
Fantastic Fungi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
we eventually got sick of it because they went so much into depth, with this part of it. But I mean, like, it was just more information than it was. Anyway, we turned it off. But that guy, if we could get a hold of him, there are people like that who are just, you might be able to find somebody who could speak to us about that.
So, Allison, since acupuncture and Chinese medicine seem to have sort of like an alternate reality to like, the way we might look at the body and the organ systems, how does it translate to what you find, so we've said thyroid and, probably the symptoms that people come in are the same, but I'm curious as to how does that translate into the systems of Chinese medicine and what you see manifesting?
Yeah, that's a great way to ask that question to me too, because I was kind of thinking, and the first things that come to my mind, neck and shoulder tension and low back pain. Those are just ones that I'm always seeing. I think it's just that insurance has covered acupuncture for low back pain, so everybody thinks of it now, and that's what they think that acupuncture can treat. But it really treats so
Right,
much
it's like
more.
chiropractors who treat low back pain because that's what the insurance will pay for.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's so much more in depth than that. But so I looked at my schedule this week, and I've seen 26 people Monday through Thursday, and I've treated fibromyalgia, 4 cancer cases or cancer side effects, anxiety, 2 trigeminal neuralgia cases, a couple chronic pain cases, a skin condition. That's an interesting one. That's like a marine toxin that was ingested like decades ago that caused a skin issue. Congestion and allergies, a couple of people for general well-being, chronic headaches, someone that had a migraine for 3 days, PMS, a preventative back pain case, an acute back pain case, dizziness and hand pain and stiffness. So that's the bulk of my treatments just this week. But in our medicine, we diagnose as patterns, and I'll see the same patterns so often. So I'll be treating sort of things in a different way with points more specifically for the individual complaint in terms of area of the body or whatnot, where it's affecting them. But the underlying root of things, a lot of the time, it's the liver. And I think that's just the stress, just the go, go, go. And also the toxic load, that we have. So the liver for sure. And the digestive system is the root of a large number of what I treat. So yeah, that's kind of the bulk of it, digestion and liver.
The digestive system is, I've talked about this before. It's the key. With the thyroid problems and with every problem, it always comes down to the digestive system, which includes the liver, by the way. I did want to mention, because I'm a chiropractor and I practiced straight chiropractic for probably, until about 15 years ago, maybe. And then I, began to incorporate more of a functional approach. And there's something that's called a viscerosomatic reflex. And I see it, because I'm kind of working both sides of the coin now. Many times, I would say majority of the time, when people have neck pain, like as a chiropractor, they come in, work on them, they'd be all loose, they come back 2 days later, they'd be tight, work on them again, and repeat 40 times, 50, like whatever it is. And the reality is that if you have a thyroid that's under stress, because it will affect the muscles in that area, and the muscles will tighten because that area is under stress. And so you can, get massages and chiropractic and all kinds of stuff and loosen the area up. But until you address the organ, it never clears up. And you can ask people this that go to their chiropractor or their massage therapist all the time with this same exact complaint. Really, it should eventually clear up if you do it, if there's nothing behind it. And the same thing with the low back pain. A lot of times can be either digestive stress. The mid back pain is going to typically be adrenals and liver or spleen. And then, the lower back pain can also be like the pelvic organs in women. And a lot of times with men, their prostate is the key to why they're having these different pains. So just a little side note on the, because you said a lot of people come in with the neck pain and the back pain. I'm sure it's probably related. you're not doing massage on them, but yet those things clear up when you clear up the organ stress, I bet.
Yeah. So like, for example, with back pain, you'll sort of see the paints a picture over time. So like an elderly person with back pain that's just a little bit like weaker and more like maybe low energy, more tending to the dehydration. Like points on the kidney channel will be really helpful for that type of back pain.
Mhm.
Somebody that comes in that's overworked, overstressed, I would treat like a liver point, and I think that that'll help for their back pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of different ways to treat it too. You can also just look at what channel's affected and then kind of just do an approach. So the bladder channel will run through the back. That's the meridian or the pathway of energy.
Mhm.
And that's Taiyang. So you would treat Taiyin, so the lung meridian. And then there's all these different connections. And then you would treat Shaoyin as well. And you can alternate like yin yang and yang yin on the extremities. And that's a really nice way to treat that I found that's very effective too. But yeah, if you look into that deeper, it would probably make a lot of sense why that would work better for one case rather than the other, depending on what's going on with the organ.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So we're halfway through, and I think we got through one of our questions.
I know. I was also going to say, I just wanted to add in, oh gosh, we were talking about that. Yes, digestion. That was another thing I was going to say. I see a lot of that. People just with IBS, you know, just a really overload of that kind of thing going on. And then cancer. Now, it might be because I'm known, you know, I have a reputation for doing work with cancer, but I have a lot of cancer people. And we have way too much cancer in our population right now. It is really sad. Yeah.
It is.
So what's your favorite health issue to address? Either one of you.
I don't know. This was a tough question. When I was looking at these questions, it was a tough one for me because really it comes down, they all, you know, kind of like what we've been saying, they all sort of come down to the same basic core issues. So for me, it's not a whole lot different. Now, what's different is like what homeopathic works best versus what herb works best for a person, what, you know, but we sort of have a formula of kind of going through steps of handling different aspects. Certainly the digestive system is one for everybody because, as Becky said, it's everybody. Everybody's digestive system needs, you know, help there. And so it's sort of a process. And, you know, for me, I don't think there is really one condition. I do think, you know, I have a special place in my heart for people with autoimmune conditions because I've experienced it and I want to help them. But, you know, they all, in my world, they all seem to sort of stem from the same root causes.
Yeah. I want to say we have a question for Allison from one of our participants. Allison, bladder channel up back can affect the lungs. Did I hear that correctly?
No, I probably wasn't clear about that. The meridian can be, the meridian of the bladder channel can be balanced by the meridian of the lung channel. So say you have your back pain from an excess, so there's too much energy in the bladder channel, it's getting stuck, and that's the cause of your back pain. You could needle points on the lung channel, and it'll kind of share the load and will help alleviate the back pain. But it doesn't, no, I wouldn't really translate it that way. Doesn't mean you have a problem.
And that's a great question because the way you speak in traditional Chinese medicine terms is so, we use similar words like liver, bladder, spleen, kidney, things like that. But it's not, we tend to think of the literal organs when you say those things. So
exactly. It can be really confusing because it's an entirely different language. So yeah, lung means the lung organ to us, but it means a whole lot more. It's an entire system.
Yeah. I would answer what I like to work with best. I like everything and I like a challenge. I get a lot of challenges. A lot of people come to me when they are not they're not finding answers other places. And that doesn't mean I have the answers. I'm not saying, but I think that I get a lot of that. But I love to work with cancer. Cancer, I feel I understand pretty well, and I know quite a bit about it and things. I would much rather, I'm not saying I want a person to have cancer, but I feel more confident working with cancer sometimes than I do these nebulous conglomerations of things such as, you know, fatigue, I can't lose weight, I've tried every diet, I've done this, I've done that, I've blah, 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 just kind of more nebulous things. And I work with that, but I also really love to work with anxiety, depression, mental illness, because I do a lot with MTHFR and methylation defects. And so that's kind of another area that I have, I think, better success with than some people because of my understanding there. So I love that too, but I like it all. I love it all.
Yeah. We have a question here. Is it pretty normal for one in their 70s to have supplements to aid in digestion, even when one eats well normally?
I would say that, what I see pretty much across the board is that starting with the upper GI, especially when it comes to stomach acid, the gastric cells just get, like many other cells in the body, just get tired, worn out. They don't have the nutrients they need, or, the toxins, all the things we talked about. And then, so if you don't have enough stomach acid, you not only can you not break your proteins down properly, but you can't extract the minerals from your foods. And I think you can rehabilitate them, but I think if it just, as you go through, like we talked about, we're living in really not a natural world. And as we go through life, I think some things are going to get broken down. And so, for those, you can use like, apple cider vinegar and stuff like that as a way to help supplement that acid. Or there are like hydrochloric acid type supplements, contain HCl, or, in standard process line, they have something called Zypen, which is, HCl plus some proteolytic enzymes. But I think that's probably the most common thing that people see. And so if you're not, no matter who you are, you probably need to pay attention to that in some way, either get that rehabilitated or use some aids in that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would also say, in order to make your own hydrochloric acid, you really need iodine, believe it or not. So iodine deficiency also plays into the GI system. We see iodine deficiency related to stomach cancer. And also, the other thing I would say as we get older is pancreatic enzymes. So a lot of times you can have good success because your pancreas are just not doing as great a job cranking out those enzymes. And it's been said, at least in a book, Enzymatic Nutrition, I read in school, it was part of my course requirement. This particular book, the slant was that your pancreas have to scavenge metabolic enzymes from your other organ systems in order to make their digestive enzymes. So if you can eat, foods that contain enzymes, which are basically raw foods or fermented foods, things like that, that have their own enzymes with them that aren't destroyed by heat. And I'm not saying I go with a cold diet for everybody, so that's not the point. But I'm just saying there are many reasons people don't. So if you can get a good pancreatic enzyme supplement to use with meals, when you start to, maybe as you're getting older, have more gas and bloating and whatnot after you eat, you're just probably not breaking, a good chance is that you could use some help breaking those foods down. Do you guys agree with that?
I do, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons why that's a challenge for people is because, again, as we moved into the processed food age, and even when we get our fresh foods, you get an apple that's coming from California or Mexico and sitting on a truck for a couple of weeks, and then sitting in the grocery store for a couple of weeks, and sitting in your house for another couple of weeks before you actually eat it. You're losing on all these foods, these live foods that you mentioned, they're losing enzyme, as time goes on. And so the ideal, which is not always possible, is to go outside and pick something in your garden and eat it. You're getting the most live food that you can get. And that's just not practical or possible for many people. And so having, enzymes to help with is,
Yeah.
it's pretty much every single person we work with is going to be on an enzyme for sure.
Yeah. That was the brilliance of the raw milk diet that goes back decades, was they would use it for people who were chronically ill in, special hospitals. I don't know if you call them sanatoriums or whatever, for different things, was used for cancer. You would load up on raw milk, and pretty much that was all you kind of ate for a while, because it put a great rest on the digestive organs, because it had all the raw enzymes to digest it and all of the nutrients. And it put a great rest on not only the digestive system, but all of the other organs, so that the body had what it needed for nourishment. It had what it needed to digest the nourishment, and it had and it was restful. So yeah, raw foods, that's one of the big benefits of raw foods, is their enzymes. But you can easily get high quality digestive enzymes. So if you find that you're starting to have that problem, I would give something like that a try, because digestion, again, is really important. It's not just that it makes you uncomfortable. If you're not digesting, you're not absorbing nutrients properly, it's not healthy.
Now, is it true if you start supplementing with digestive enzymes, would you not want to do it all the time, because then your body will stop making the enzymes on its own?
I don't
No.
believe so. I think, again, you think of it like another food. It's just lacking in the food system. So you're getting it, from papaya, whatever however they're making the enzymes. The other thing too to note is, like, sometimes people have issues with like gluten or sensitivities to corn. Enzymes can actually act like a cleanser to those things too. So they can help you with your digestion of your foods. They can act as a cleanser for some of those things that people are having challenges with. Even sugar, things like that. And it also takes a little pressure off your pancreas, because most people's pancreases are beaten up and tired. So by adding that in, it actually allows the pancreas to rest a little bit, and you can get some rehabilitation of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I just wanted to say, the person who asked you, Allison, about that question back there, she said, thank you. She tends to just think lung. So thanks for explaining that it's larger than that.
Yes, thank you for asking that question. Both of those were excellent questions. We appreciate that. I learned so much from you guys from that one, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's our next question?
Yeah,
Oh,
Allison's, we haven't heard of Allison's favorite.
You're the moderator. You can't chip in here, no.
I really enjoy treating headaches. I love having a skill, and I love thinking about, like, okay, so with a headache, you want to know where in the head it is. And so if it's a frontal headache, I'll do certain points and it'll shift. If they have a current headache, this is what I'm kind of talking about. So you can, it'll change. So like you can either diminish it and it'll go away, or oftentimes they'll stop feeling it in the front of the head and it'll move to the temple area, or it'll move to the back. And then you kind of chase it. I treated a patient for a migraine yesterday, and she said, we kept kind of going. She's like, you're chasing it around. But it's really fun to do that, because I treat so many things that you don't know how it's going to affect them right away. But with an acute headache, it's very
yes,
instantaneous, and I can see exactly how it goes. And yeah, I have
instant gratification. We all love that, right?
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, short answer.
There's plenty of people out there with headaches who would love that. So
that's right. That's what most people want too. Instant gratification, like that.
Yeah. Send them my way. I also love women's issues like PMS stuff, and working with the menstrual cycle and just getting a balance in a woman's life, because
I for years, I had a clinic in Atlanta for many years, and we had I had a full complement of different practitioners, and we had a Chinese medicine doctor, acupuncturist, and that was a huge part of her practice, and she helped so many people with those issues. So really great resource for that.
Yeah. It's very nice with Chinese medicine, because we break it into the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. So you have the blood phase, and then you're rebuilding in the yin phase, and then you're warming things up to get ready in the yang phase, and then the qi phase, you're actually starting the menstrual cycle. So if you kind of just do that as a cycle with every week of the menstrual cycle. It's just a really nice way to kind of work with your body naturally.
Natural rhythms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, our next question. So how do you guys diagnose or best determine what is going on and how to treat somebody?
Well, I think, all of us probably are going to be the same in this way, that I don't think there's anything more important than the history. When I sit down with somebody and go through history, I've been doing it long enough to kind of get a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with, just based on, cases I've had in the past. But, my specialty really is to use kinesiology as a tool. And, it's a tool like any other. It has its positives and, its limitations, but it really, what I like about it is it enables us to figure out exactly what organs are under stress and exactly why they're under stress. In other words, do we have a heavy metal? And if so, what heavy metal is it? Is it mercury? Is it aluminum? Is it, iron? And, same thing in the chemicals. We can really determine what specific chemical toxicity is affecting this area, what specific immune challenge is in this organ. And that really helps us tailor exactly how we, develop a plan and, a supplement or homeopathic schedule for somebody, because, I just think it's such an advantage if you know what you're dealing with. And we can also use this system to track it. So parasites, for instance, are really common. And so sometimes people do a parasite protocol, but they don't really know whether or not they actually got it handled. And this enables us to go in and see and track it from the beginning to the end to make sure it's handled. Same thing with toxins. And, one thing is, obviously if you have silver amalgam fillings and mercury shows up in your body, it doesn't take too much to figure out where they're coming from. But a lot of times things show up in people and they don't know where they came from. And, I'll tell them well, it's not that important unless the levels don't go down. And so if we're finding the levels don't go down, then we know we need to look deeper into lifestyle or environment to figure out where this thing is coming from so that they don't repeat the problem. And I remember a case several years back where a lady came in and she was a thyroid issue, and we found petroleum solvents was the major stressor to the thyroid. And then of course, usually there's a viral challenge there as well. And we helped her get those things handled. And she came back about a year and a half later and said, "Oh, I'm having the same symptoms." And we checked her out. I said, "Oh, petroleum solvents. Do you remember us talking about this?" And she's like, "No." But petroleum solvents are, very common chemical in, like I talked about before, in your hand creams and stuff like that. And so I think having an awareness of what, or at least what is part of the stress on the body is important, because it enables and gives some power to a person to then make changes so they don't repeat the same cycle again. It's great if I had the magic cure and like, boom, okay, now you're healed. But if then they go and repeat the same thing, I don't know, to me, that's not really empowerment. I like to bring people that I work with to a level of empowerment. And part of empowerment is knowledge and understanding of how we got to a certain place in the first place. So that's, and, of course, like many of us have a story, it's what after years and years of trying to figure out and going to many different practitioners and getting them, well, let's try this, see what happens, and not getting anywhere. Once I got some answers and knew what I was dealing with, I was then able to confidently move forward and get these things handled. And that's what helped me to get better. So of course, then I said, oh my gosh, I need to learn this, because I have all of these people that I'm working with chiropractically that have these autoimmune diseases and these, glandular issues, and, so.
Yeah.
How specific you can get with your type of diagnosis. You can really tell the exact metal, and
it's
cool.
it's really unbelievable, actually. So
Yeah, we should go into partnership sometime. What a team.
I would partner with you any day of the week, Rebecca. You're amazing.
I'm telling you. I mean, because if I had you to, if we were doing.
What a team. We have a little bit, you've sent some my way, and you're always welcome to. I'm happy to contribute in what I can. And I, like we've talked about every week, and every week I learn something from you. So,
Well,
I listen.
likewise, I would say, yeah, I'd like to do, I want to say a benefit that the three of us have, and Matt and Tisa as well, Doctors Matt and Tisa Apatelli, we pretty much are preaching to the choir. People who come to see practitioners like us, it's not like people think they are owed a doctor by whoever and they are owed medical care. I mean, most people have to fork up money that is out of their discretionary or whatever, many times sacrifice to see people like us. You know, I know insurance covers some of the stuff you guys do, but not me. But we have people who are, we have people who are motivated, or they probably wouldn't have contacted us in the first place. So they want that empowerment. They don't want to just be told, oh, here's what you need to do. Don't ask me any questions. Just do this, right? No, they want to know why. Yeah, they want to know why. They want to know what's going on. They're dismayed if they're having health problems. And when you tell them, oh my goodness, look at this, you know, look at these petroleum product toxicity or aluminum or mercury. It's so, wow. I mean, people's, you know, I said, I had a client who's 19 the other day. She's been suffering with anxiety and depression and ADD. She's brilliant for really her whole life long. And I said, you know, I love working with people your age because, you know, sometimes I'll work with somebody who's in their 70s and they've struggled with this kind of thing for their whole lives long. And while they're relieved and they're happy about it, they're also often very angry because they feel like they've suffered so much of their life. And she said to me, I'm already angry. I mean, you know, I might be 19, but I've really suffered with this my whole life. So, you know,
young people are so resilient too, you know, like if you can just get some blocks out of the way, they heal, you know. That's the beautiful part about that.
Yeah. So, oh, how do I diagnose? Okay, so I do a big long intake questionnaire. It's you know, about 14 pages long. And then I sit and really talk with the person. If I do, I will look, you know, I'll spend an hour and a half or 2 hours in the first interview. And I absolutely adore, you know, meeting people and getting to know them. I mean, just as a person, you know, sometimes I'll know more about their lives and their whole history. And then we got 15 minutes, you know, we're like, now let's talk about your health, because I'm just fascinated by people, and I really like people. But so there's that. I think that is really crucial. I think it's what's really missing from mainstream medicine today is there's no opportunity for that to happen.
Yeah, and just to, not to interrupt you, but I just want to make this an important note in the consultation. And when you're spending time with somebody, there's the symptoms and the history, but that you go to your, you know, typical Western doctor and they get all the medical history. But there is another component that's extremely important, is that how is this thing affecting somebody, their life? And it plays into how you work with that person and how you help that person. And it's an extremely important part, Becky. And it's so awesome that you spend that much time with somebody, because that's a huge component of that relationship that you create with them.
Absolutely. Which means it's not a one size fits all, right? So you might have somebody with a very similar health condition as another person, but who they are as a person really influences your approach and what you do. Some things are going to be, you know, objective and whatnot, but and you know, there's just, that's where the joy and the reward I think that we get, that is missing from a lot of people in healthcare today, is that we actually feel rewarded by the fact that people do improve. And we get to witness that because we follow that and we get to know them and we understand them as people, and they become sort of like our families in our practice. They become like a part of our family. I call it the Wondrous Roots family. So
yeah, one of my favorite parts too is just really getting to know people in the consultation. And even like I had a consultation last night where it became apparent that I was not going to be a fit. It was a couple, and you know, they didn't really need me, quite honestly. And I was like, you know what, you guys don't actually need me. You can do that. where you're at now, you can do this. But it was really nice to just spend time with them and converse and just, create a relationship.
Cool.
I really want to hear what Allison does.
Yeah, the intake questions and the health history is definitely a lot, is very helpful. Hearing it from someone's point of view is really helpful because you can pick up on cues about how it's affecting their life and just get a hunch about where it might be coming from too. But there's lots of different diagnostic techniques in Chinese medicine. The two largest ones are looking at the tongue and taking the pulse. So the tongue is a map for the whole body. So you can map out the organ systems on the tongue. You want to look at the color of the actual tongue and if it has a coat on it, so if it has a coat or if it doesn't have a coat, or if it's peeled in specific areas, will tell you something. And then if it does have a coat, is it yellow or is it white, or is it it's like a slimy sort of coat, or is the tongue very dry or is it wet? The moisture of it, what's the shape of it? So is it scalloped on the sides? Does it have a long tip? Is it deviated at the tip? Are the veins underneath distended? So there's a lot of information on the tongue. So that's exciting. And the pulse tells us a lot too. So there's 3 different organ systems on 2 different depths on each wrist. So you have the yang organs on the superficial depth and the yin organs that are paired with those on the deeper level. And so you want to tell how deep is the pulse at that organ level? Is it really floating or is it sunken? And then how much strength is there? And then the qualities of it. So is it wiry? Is it like a guitar string? Or is it wiry like a bass string? Or is it choppy? So it's that classically the way they describe that, it's like a boat on choppy water, and it's kind of like that. Is it soft?
Right.
Is it just kind
I'm
of
putting myself on the spot, but you told me the other night that mine was wiry. So what does that mean? I'm dying.
No, so and everybody has something. So everyone's gonna fit in some sort of diagnosis. But no, wiry pulse is really common, and it just means that the chi, the energy in the body, isn't moving as smoothly as it could move. That's all.
So you were helping me with smoothing out my chi.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. Which is a lot of liver. Liver is kind of the master of that, the free flow of chi. Yeah.
I by the way, Allison, when I describe what I do to people in the office and okay, well, how are we going to do this? And I describe it, I always actually use acupuncture as a way to help people, because you were saying, I think in a couple episodes back, well, most people don't really understand the language of acupuncture, and I feel sort of alone because I'm in this oasis. But a lot of people have heard of acupuncture or have tried acupuncture and kind of understand that energy channels run through the body. So I always use that as an explanation to explain kinesiology, because it's really based off the same principles. You're touching and contacting either acupuncture points or organ reflexes, but it's all about energy and disruption of the flow of energy.
Wow.
That's cool.
Do you have a comment in the saying, I can attest to the personal relationship value of a practitioner. We are valued by that. So that's
yeah.
Good positive comment. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said for just, somebody being able to really not only tell their story, but be listened to. Yeah. It's a huge piece of the healing process. Wow, somebody actually heard me and understands what my experience is. That alone can start that healing process.
Yeah. And I think I've thought, I have so many, I can't tell you how many wonderful people. Everybody's wonderful. You asked what the favorite thing is, I love everything about it. I even love the fact that, I get to do this with you guys, that I know other colleagues, and I love everything. There's very little I don't like.
You're just so full of gratitude. It's spilling over from last episode.
I am, but I get bogged down by details, things that just, you plan and another, but that's okay. that's good because that means I'm busy, and if you're in business, you want to be busy. So, that's also something to be grateful for. But people are so rich, and I don't know. It's just, I can't imagine a type of vocation I could do where I would have the opportunity to meet so many different people and really hear their life stories. It's very, very enriching. I'm humbled by it. Some people just blow me away.
You're doing what you were made to do.
Yeah.
Becky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we don't have much time left.
We'll have to get to our other questions next time or whatever.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And no, that runs along with that, your favorite part of running your business, it sounds to you, Becky, it's the interactions with people and getting to know them. Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And I think, like with Becky, there, when it comes to like running a business, there's a lot of little details to take care of. And probably most of us have this experience is you have to wear a lot of hats, because you have to be the manager and the marketing person and the practitioner. And, like there's many different hats that you have to wear. And that can be a little bit challenging, I think, especially when you first start out, you're like a sole practitioner, you don't have help or something like that. But the joys are really seeing people's lives change. I mean, it's insatiable, really, because like when somebody comes back and then they say, oh my gosh, like this has changed my life. I can function now, I can do this. Because it's a realization that not only are you helping change their life, but then they're going out and being able to positively affect other people's lives, by being able to give their gift. And I think it's awesome. And I like look at like practitioners, and I think about practitioners across the country and the world that are all doing this. And I think in some ways buoying up society, with being able to provide people with a way to get their lives back. And I just love being part of that and feeling like I'm part of that team. So.
Yeah.
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 And having your own practice, you can decide the best way to practice. When I accepted insurance, I was held by their rules, and you have to, like, you have to bill by 15-minute increments, and you have to be in the room for 8 minutes at a time. And so it just like, it's not the way that I would think that I would want to treat the patient. So I just hated that. So you get to decide, how long do I want my treatments to be? How long do I want to be in the room with this patient specifically? And how long do I want to be in the room with this other patient? And what do they need today? And how many days a week do I want to work? And, if I need a day off to get myself in, better standing so I can keep treating patients, then I can do that.
That's so true. I want to say we have a chat comment before we go. And then I want to say how I agree with what you just said. I remember way back growing up, the two shows on TV that made doctors really interested in a person like Becky says. Dr. Kildare and Marcus Welby were the two shows that I was glued to and wanted a doctor like them. You all three show you have a heart for what you were doing and helping people, and that is to be praised. Thank you. Thank you very much, Connie, for saying that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And Allison, to piggyback on what you were saying, exactly. People will say to me, do you take insurance? And I'm like, no, but you don't want me to take insurance, because if I did, I couldn't do what I do. And I always work with people. If it's a financial thing, I'll work that out. So that shouldn't keep anybody. If I can help somebody, I will. But yes, writing your own rules and being your own boss is what allows us to stand out. And your mainstream doctor cannot do that. As much as they want to, they cannot. It's impossible.
Yeah, and I talk about it. I give webinars all the time, and I always mention that because I think it's a differentiation that people, sometimes don't know or aren't aware that there's a box, standards of care that practitioners have to practice in, and in the Western medical world, that their box is dictated by insurance companies and dictated by pharmaceutical companies. And so you could have, I always use the example, if you're a medical doctor and you have, the cure for cancer, the natural cure for cancer, and it worked 499 times, and then the 500th time somebody happens to die, not because of anything you did, if you're in that system, you're outside the box, you're not protected, you know, like you have to, so as practitioners, as independent practitioners, we have the opportunity not only and the obligation to really give our best in the best way we see fit to help people, not governed by rules that don't serve people. So
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
well, awesome. That was a fun session, like
That was fun.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a
Yeah.
lot, as I always do from you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess here we are, it's Friday. We are closing down the work week a little bit here, and I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. I
Yeah,
think
we're
supposed to get
back.
snow in our area. Are we?
Yeah, tomorrow,
Yeah.
2 to 4. 2 to 4. I got to get the wood stacked. What are we? We're back in 2 weeks. Is that right?
2
Is that
weeks.
how we?
2 weeks.
Okay, so everybody's out there listening. We're going to be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Checking in for the holiday.
Yeah.
The holiday
Thank you,
season.
everyone.
Our next topic.
Yeah. So thanks so much.
Great.
Have a great week, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.